Welcome, everybody. I am so super excited to have you here with me for this presentation. I'm using a new microphone, so I need to know that you can hear me. So if you can in the comments below, just let me know if you can hear me. That will be super helpful before we get started. And I think I might have set the comments where you can only comment if you are a subscriber of mine. I think I did that in order to make sure that I don't get like bot comments or anything crazy during this presentation because it's just me here presenting today. All right. And I think I can hear myself. So perfect. Okay. Hello. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here with me. I just have a little icebreaker here up on the screen because I want this to be fun and interactive for you. So if you are here, if you have the ability to join the chat, please let me know where you're from. I always get really excited when I do presentations like this, that there are people from all over the world. And so please let me know where you're from. I'm coming here from beautiful upstate New York. It's a really warm, sunny day, thankfully. So I am enjoying every second of it. I am really grateful that you're here with me today, that I get to do this presentation because it's absolutely one of my favorite things to do is to present live and to share just my education skills with you. It's one of my favorite things to do. So, enough blabbing. Let's get to it. Welcome. This is my live masterclass here. It's called Meet Your Endocannabinoid System. And so that's the topic for today's presentation. I did see a couple of comments in the chat earlier talking about growing and harvesting, and I would absolutely love to talk about that. And if it's of interest to you, let me know. Maybe next month we'll do a live chat about harvesting. But for today, we're specifically talking about your endocannabinoid system. And if you don't know me, my name is Emily Kyle. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist turned certified holistic cannabis practitioner. And anything you need to know about me, you can find at my website, emilykylenutrition.com. As we go through today's presentation, if I mention different links or resources, my website really is the hub where you can find all things that you need. You can also find my online shop, you can find my online courses, and of course, my contact information. So if you have any questions, if you want to follow up, you can always email me at support@emilykylenutrition.com. That's good for introductions. Let's get going and what you can expect for today. Now, I tend to talk a lot. I get really excited. Like I said, I like giving these presentations. My number one goal is that I'm going to keep this presentation timely today. I usually go over my time, but fun fact, I don't know if you guys know this about me. I am the 10-year-old cheerleading coach for my son's football team this year. So I have to go at 4 o'clock so I can get to practice. So that's why I'm going to be talking fast, moving forward here. But what I am going to do is we're going to have some live polls and quizzes for fun. Again, I want to keep this interactive. I don't want you to get bored while I'm talking. So if you do see the ability to chat, please feel free to do that. I actually cannot see the chat right now. I'm not sure why. So if you are chatting in there, thank you so much. Again, I did set a restriction where you have to follow me in order to be able to use the chat. Oh, I found the chat. Yay. Oh my gosh, there's so many of you here. Oh, that's so exciting. Yvonne from Rochester, my friend, hello, how are you? I hope you had a good vacation. South Africa, Pennsylvania. Oh my gosh. My number one fan says, "Hi, Mom." Ran, thank you so much. He's starting his YouTube career as well, so he's here to support me on my first YouTube live stream, so thank you, honey. Canada, Minnesota, Colorado. Oh my gosh. I just thank you all for coming here with me. There's 90 of you here live. Okay, I'm excited. All right. So we're going to do live quizzes and polls for fun. Again, I have that live chat. You do have to follow me in order to participate, but it's just to keep, hopefully no spammers or anything crazy happens. Number one, what I'm here to present to you today is this endocannabinoid system education. That's what I'm really passionate about. And then I will also be at the end talking about more information about our next steps if you want to continue working together and continue to learn on your cannabis journey. All right, so I want to make sure you feel like you're in the right place. So, this class is going to be for you. And I want to say thank you for spending your time with me. Time is super precious these days. And the fact that you're going to give me an hour of your time, I just hope you know that I appreciate it. And so, I want to make sure you feel like you're in the right space. So, this class is for you. And this was me, you know, cannabis makes you feel better, but you don't know why or how. And so this is really like a new step into education and learning that our bodies are meant to work with cannabis. It's also for you if you want to have better control over your cannabis experience. I'll also tell a little story, but when I first started using cannabis, I didn't really have a lot of control over my experience. And being able to fine tune your experience can make all the difference in your outcomes, your health, your wellness, things like that. This class is also for you if you're busy and you don't have all the time to put the pieces together. So, the way I like to teach is like, I want to give you all the information that you need to go out and take action today so that you can leave this free class knowing enough about your endocannabinoid system and things that you can change in order to change your cannabis experience. And then I also want to welcome those who have ever felt like shame or frustration in trying to share their cannabis journey with people who just don't understand, because that was me for so, so long. I didn't feel like I had a community. I was in the cannabis closet for so long. I ended up building this amazing, beautiful cannabis community that we have here today, which is called the Well with Cannabis community, or really any of my social media platforms, wherever you are, my newsletter. It's just, I've brought together all these really amazing people who really love and understand the benefits of cannabis. And so I hope that you feel the support and you don't feel judged like you do from other groups outside of the cannabis space. Okay, so hopefully everyone feels like they're in a good space. Gordon from Batavia, super close to me, saying hello. Oh, good evening from the UK. That's so nice of you to join from far. I appreciate that. You guys are so nice. Thanks for being here. Okay. So here's what we're going to cover. These are my four main topics. These are the four most important things that I want you to learn, understand, and take away from today. So first up, we're going to talk about the anatomy of your endocannabinoid system. I really want you to be able to understand your body and where different things are and working. Then we're going to talk about two important topics, which is going to be endogenous versus exogenous cannabinoids. These are really important to understand. Then we'll talk about our cannabinoid receptors. I think this is like the most interesting thing I ever learned, so I hope that you find it super interesting as well. And then what we're going to talk about is the external factors that influence the endocannabinoid system, because it's not just cannabis. And that's why taking a holistic approach, so much of what I do is holistic wellness, nutrition, not just cannabis, how those can end up giving you the best outcome at the end as well. So I built myself in a little drink break. We're going to start with poll question number 1. And this is what I want to know from you. Have you ever been given education about your endocannabinoid system, either in high school or college? So if you are A, put this in the chat. So A is no, I never knew about the endocannabinoid system before I heard you, Emily, talking about it, if it's super new to you. B, yes, I learned about it in high school. And that might sound funny, but one time I did this podcast interview with this high school teacher who really prided himself in teaching his students about the endocannabinoid system. So it does happen out there. C, yes, I learned about it in college, which, okay, I went to a great university, Rochester Institute of Technology, and I got my bachelor's in nutrition. And then I ended up getting a master's of science in nutrition as well. And I learned about so many things like anatomy, chemistry, biology, physiology. All those years of schooling, I never learned about the endocannabinoid system. So, C, if you did. And then D, no, I learned about it on my own, which would be me like, Emily, I read your website and your newsletter, and obviously I know about the endocannabinoid system. So go ahead, put that in. I'm going to take a sip of my water. Well, lots of A's. Never knew about the endocannabinoid system. I'm so glad you're here then. That's what I want to teach you about. I'm excited. And a lot of people learning about it on their own. I have one C. Lori learned about it in college. Amazing. And no high school learners, except my little guy here, Ransom Kyle, if you're still here. He learned about it, I guess technically not in high school, but for me. So, okay. We're all kind of starting on the same page then, which is great. I really want to start like foundation endocannabinoid system. Now, as we move into this, I really want to share this little story with you because this is how I realized how important the endocannabinoid system is. So, this picture here, this is little Emily. This is, oh gosh, it says 2013. So, what, 12 years ago, I was graduating college. And I just want to give you a little insight into my cannabis journey. And at this point, I thought I was great. And at this point, I was living in the cannabis closet. Nobody knew I used cannabis, but it was fueling my desire to graduate college. I felt so much better. I think I have undiagnosed ADHD. It managed my anxiety so well. Like cannabis was my savior. However, it was also what I thought was going to ruin my career and something that I really was embarrassed about. And for so long, I knew that cannabis made me feel better, but I didn't know why. And I should also say back then, 12 years ago, it was not easy to get cannabis like it is today, right? We're recreationally legal in New York State, so you can walk into any dispensary and buy anything that you want. But 12 years ago, I just knew a guy with a phone number and I'd call, and every couple of weeks I'd get a bag. And the problem with that was I never knew what kind of cannabis I was getting, the strain, the potency. I knew nothing about it. I didn't know that there were even other strains or that I could try something different to get a different effect. And so this little Emily is where I think you might be starting out today, where you know cannabis helps and it's definitely something that you want to pursue in the future, but you're not exactly sure why. And this is where I want to bring some clarity into you and helping you understand that your body was absolutely meant to work with cannabis. And that was the light bulb moment for me because for so long I felt really ashamed that cannabis made me feel better. And I was like, well, I must be a drug addict. Like, why would this make me feel so much better? And when I learned about the endocannabinoid system, what it does, and the role that it plays in the body, it just everything made more sense. I was so much easier on myself. I did not feel guilty or bad for using cannabis. And that's where I really want you to get to a point today of understanding my body was biologically built to interact with the substances in this plant. It's natural, it's normal, and I have a lot of control over how that happens, right? And we'll talk about, but what I mean is like, say, for example, THC versus CBD versus CBG. We have so many options now. We'll talk about that. But what I want you to know and feel empowered is that you can absolutely tailor your cannabis experience to your unique endocannabinoid system. So we'll talk about that completely. But what I really, really want to help you with is for so long I went down like the rabbit hole of not knowing where to find this information. And I felt like I was getting sucked down a rabbit hole, doing that research at night, being on Google, Googling random things. My hope today is that I'm just going to kind of bring it all together and help you understand this in a way that helped me understand it. Um, and this research is what inspired me actually to go back to school to become a certified holistic cannabis practitioner. A lot of what I'm teaching here today is things that I learned in that program. And it was because once I knew that cannabis helped me, like I had to learn more. And maybe that's why you're here today, is that it just becomes so intriguing. And so I hope that this is going to help save you time and money. I mean, I invested quite a few years, $5,000 into this program. I want to bring what I learned, the best of it to you, save you time, money, and energy here today. So, what I also want is you remember that, old little Emily who didn't know any better. I want to turn you into confident, happy, cannabis confident Emily because the person that I am today, 12 years ago, knowing what I know about cannabis, I feel so empowered in how I take care of my health, how I take care of the health of my family members, people in my community. I feel so empowered that I know how to make my own sleep medicine, my own anxiety medicine, my own pain medicine. I can make relaxation edibles. Once you understand the way cannabis works with our body, it gives you so much power to create all these different medications, if you will, that can help you and your family. So, this is at the end, my goal is that you are going to be as cannabis confident as I was. And so thinking about this for so long, I was like, well, why does cannabis, we know it works great for both mental and physical conditions, because not only did I use cannabis to manage my anxiety and probably ADHD, but I definitely use cannabis to manage pain. Quite a few years ago, I had a health scare which resulted in some chronic pain. And I mean, what would I do without cannabis, right? I mean, we've all had uh, or loved ones, experiences with opioids, and we all have reasons for not wanting to do that. And obviously, cannabis is an incredible option for that. But so, why does it work? Because opioids don't help our mental health, right? So, why does cannabis help both mental and physical ailments? And that's because of our endocannabinoid system. And this really incredible system has these receptors. We're going to talk about the two different receptors, but did you know that the endocannabinoid system has more receptors on your body than any other neurotransmitter system? Any other. So, I mean, we're talking dopamine, serotonin, the millions of different molecules that bop around in our bodies all day. We have more cannabinoid receptors than any other receptor combined. And understanding that really helps you to understand, like, wow, that's really cool. And so, what I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk to you about these receptors that impact both our mind and our body, but it's this system, and that's why cannabis works for both mental and physical ailments. And that's why how you if you change how you use cannabis, the cannabinoids that you're using, the terpenes that you're using, you can get different results. So let's get into it. I'm going to take a little sip of water quick. Now here's the thing. When we are in school learning, whether it's high school, college, whatever, we all learn about our immune system, and we all learn about our digestive system. We all learn about our cardiovascular system. These are all things that maybe we don't have expertise in, but we know about, and we know that we are trying to take care of, right? We're always trying to help boost our immunity. We're always trying to help support our cardiovascular health so we don't get heart disease. But we also have this endocannabinoid system that we can be taking care of. And so, what's really interesting here is that the endocannabinoid system, unlike the cardiovascular system, which only impacts the heart, unlike the digestive system, which only impacts our digestion, this affects every single aspect of our human experience. So, from memory to pain to stress relief to reproduction, because of these receptors that are all throughout our bodies, impacts all of these different processes that we experience. And so that really helps us understand, well, yeah, cannabis helps me relax. Well, yes, you have receptors in your mind. Well, yes, cannabis helps me with pain. Yes, you have receptors all over your muscles, your joints. So it's really, really exciting as we learn. I hope you're getting as excited as I am to understand that this really does impact every single aspect of your body. And what I think is maybe the most important thing I want you to take away from this is that everybody's endocannabinoid system is different. So, just like we all have different immune systems, right? Like our immune systems are so completely different because if I've had COVID recently, I have COVID antibodies, maybe you haven't. Things are different in between immune systems. And that's the same way with your endocannabinoid system. And what you take away from that further is that is the reason why cannabis affects everybody so differently. And so many times people come to me and they say, my friend took 5 milligrams of THC and she sleeps like a baby at night, and I take it and I feel nothing. Well, it's because you both have completely different endocannabinoid systems. They're completely different. And again, like immunity, right? Like just because you take vitamin C doesn't mean that if your friend takes vitamin C, she's going to experience a shorter cold than you. I really just need you, when you take away from this, is that you are only focusing on your endocannabinoid system, how your body responds to cannabis, because we are all built very, very differently, which explains why cannabis affects everybody very, very differently. So I hope that all makes sense. Let's move on because we have lots of exciting things to cover. And I told myself I was going to be faster than this. One of the questions I had, especially because I went to school to get a master's of science in nutrition, I never learned about this. And I was like, why have I never learned about this before? why? Like, I mean, we spend so much time learning about physiology, anatomy, things like that. You would think that this would have come up, but no. And so, I mean, relatively speaking, in terms of science speak, the discovery of the endocannabinoid system is relatively new. They really just discovered it back in the early 1990s. And so that's why there's a lot of information that we don't know about it yet. But when it was discovered, there is quite a bit of scientific literature out there, and it does say that the endocannabinoid system, it's been recognized as an important system, modulatory system, meaning affects everything of the brain, the endocrine, and the immune tissues. Which, I mean, even when I think about it, it's like so crazy that it can affect so many different things. So, what is the endocannabinoid system specifically? And so, specifically, it's a complex cell signaling system made up of three different things. The first thing is our messengers. We'll talk about these specifically. And then we have our receptors. And then we have our enzymes. And so, messengers we'll talk about can all be different, right? How we put cannabis into our bodies. Receptors are all different because we all have different receptor sites. And granted, they should be similar, but they're all different because we're all different. And then enzymes, which we're going to talk about specifically for edibles and how this impacts how you experience edibles. But it's these three main things. What happens is the endocannabinoid system works with chemical compounds. So the cannabinoids that we consume, like CBD and THC and terpenes that come from our flower or however you're consuming. And what happens is these compounds, these are the messengers. These are coming into our bodies and they're going to be going all throughout our body to spread their messages, right? And so we know that THC will send a different message than CBD, which starts to help us understand why different cannabinoids make us feel different ways. So we're going to come back and we're going to talk about all three of these specifically, our messengers, our receptors, and our enzymes. But I wanted to make sure that you understood this as a whole before we get deep down in here. A question quick is there a test to diagnose your endocannabinoid system? Not that I know of, but we will talk about the work of Dr. Ethan Russo if you want to do some research on him. He is a very interesting cannabis researcher who proposes that certain conditions such as migraine, fibromyalgia, and IBS he believes that they are actually related to an endocannabinoid deficiency. And that's why, so many people see relief from fibromyalgia pain with cannabis. And so that's like a whole rabbit hole to go on. We can talk about that, but just wanted to answer that question there for you, Derek. If you wanted to go down that rabbit hole, I don't know of a specific test, but an endocannabinoid deficiency is a real thing. Now, let's get into the role of the endocannabinoid system and why it exists in the first place. And that is to maintain homeostasis within the body. So, if homeostasis is a brand new word for you, it really just means balance. So, in terms of like biology, homeostasis, it's the state of like internal physical conditions that all remain the same. So, for example, you eat a donut and that sugar breaks down and spikes your blood sugar. Well, part of the homeostasis in your body is recognizing that your blood sugar is spiking. And then to counter that, your body is going to produce insulin to bring that sugar down. And once it does that, it gets your blood sugar back to normal. And that's the act of homeostasis or bringing balance into the body. And so homeostasis occurs with so many different functions within the body. I mean, like, just even the amount of, like, salt in your blood, that your body is always compensating if things are a little too much or too little, too little. It's always going through homeostasis and bringing things back to normal. Okay, great. So it's really interesting to find out then that the endocannabinoid system is responsible for maintaining the homeostasis of these systems in the body, right? Super, super interesting that your endocannabinoid system could be responsible for maintaining things like body temperature and fluid balance. And so that's where it becomes really, really interesting of why didn't we know about this before? If it's so important to maintaining internal stability for both mental, physical, and emotional stability, why didn't we know about this before? And on the good side, once we do know that the endocannabinoid system does control all of these things mentally, physically, and emotionally. It helps us understand why cannabis can help alleviate so many conditions in this way. So, there's another researcher, Professor DiMarzo, and I think he was the one who even discovered the endocannabinoid system. He said that the exact job of the endocannabinoid system is to help us relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect. Which, if you've used cannabis before, which I'm sure that you have, think about your experience with cannabis. Has it helped you relax? Has it helped you eat? Has it helped you sleep? Has it caused you to forget, maybe in a good way or a bad way? And has it actually helped protect you in some way? And once we kind of put all these pieces together and we're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, like cannabis does all those things for me." It helps us to understand that yes, it does that because we have this endocannabinoid system and because we are really just doing what our bodies need. Now, the great thing about this is that researcher believes that the endocannabinoid system is the true core of the mind body connection. And if you've been a long-time cannabis user, consumer, I'd love for you to put in the chat, do you find this to be true? And I absolutely did. When I heard this statement, I was like, that is, yes, like it helps bring my mind to my body and my body to my mind. Like it's a really unique, special experience. So if you have really experienced, if you're a longtime cannabis consumer, you feel like it is the true core of the mind body connection, give me a yes in the comments because I want to know I'm not the only one. Okay. So why? Why is it important to care about your endocannabinoid system? And I think I hopefully already made the argument is that because it influences all of the other systems and physiological processes in our bodies. And so, according to Oxford Academic, this system has a profound influence on all of these things. Okay, ready? And I do have scientific studies for everything I'm talking about too. If you need any of them, just let me know. But according to Oxford Academic, the endocannabinoid system influences brain health, which is crazy. In the cognitive process, which it can go back and forth, right? Like sometimes cannabis maybe causes us to do things cognitively that we don't want or don't like, but we can always alter that based on how much THC we consume. And there is a lot of really early evidence coming out about Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like that, and where cannabis might actually help. But back to that, the endocannabinoid system, it can also impact our vital organs, all of our organs, our connective tissues, our pain sensation and our pain perception. I think that's one of the number one reasons that people choose to use cannabis, and that's because, again, this cannabis is coming in, it's reacting with our receptors, it's sending messages to our bodies that that pain is going to be less. And again, I had already mentioned things like irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease. It's amazing to see how many people who have like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, who found such relief with cannabis. And oh, it's because we have receptors inside our colon and all throughout our digestive system. But it also can influence energy balance. So there are a lot of studies out there that say like long-term cannabis users have less adipose tissue or fat on their bodies compared to other cannabis consumers. Granted, we don't have enough long-term research to know, but could that be because of our endocannabinoid system and the way that it really impacts our energy balance? And of course, last but not least is our sleep cycles. If anyone's ever used cannabis, you know it's going to impact your sleep one way or another. So, yes, I'm not the only one who finds this to be the true core of the mind body connection. And I think that's a really beautiful thing about cannabis is so many people are like, oh, stoners and smoking and just numbing out. And I think everybody here is just such the opposite, where we're using it so mindfully and intentionally to create a beautiful life full of holistic wellness. And I think that that brings it back to being the true core of the mind body connection and being mindful of your use. So thank you for confirming that with me. So, what is your endocannabinoid system made up of? Because they are actual things in the body. So, this cell signaling system, again, I said it's made up of three different things. We're going to talk specifically about our receptors. So, you have CB1 receptors and you have CB2 receptors. We're going to talk about those, where they are in the body, and why that's important. Then we're going to talk about our messengers. We know about our cannabinoids, right? We're bringing in THC, we're bringing in CBD, but we're also going to talk about endocannabinoids. So anandamide and 2-AG, which is exciting. I hope you are excited to learn about that. Then we're going to briefly talk about our metabolic enzymes. I don't want to get too scientific and technical. However, these have a huge impact on how people experience the effect of edibles. So I definitely want to touch on that. And then secondary components not yet understood. I do want people to understand that here in America, cannabis remains a Schedule 1 drug, meaning like the worst of the worst, we're all going to die. And that means that there is no federally funded research into the potential benefits, right? So we don't have as much scientific evidence as would be nice to understand everything about the endocannabinoid system. And there's probably other things that do influence your system as well. But this information here is really what we do know, what I've pulled from the scientific research and what again, what I learned from my holistic cannabis practitioner training. Let's get into it. So our two primary receptors, get used to seeing this girl here. This is me and all my cannabinoid receptors. My receptors, my CB1 receptors are hot pink and my CB2 receptors are light pink. So 1988, 2 years before I was born, the CB1 receptor was identified. And then in 1993, the CB2 receptors were identified. Again, remember, there are more CB1 and CB2 receptors in your body than any other receptor type, which is cool, right? So, your endocannabinoid system, it contains receptors that receive the information from the messengers or the cannabinoids. So, the way I like to put it is saying, your receptors are like little mailboxes, and they're ready to receive the messages that are put out in the world. And anyone can send you a message, and you could send yourself a message, but your receptors are the mailboxes that are waiting for that message to come in. And so inside your body, we have the two different types. We have the CB1 receptors and we have the CB2 receptors. Now, CB1 receptors are primarily found in your brain, your nervous system, and your central nervous system. So, again, mental. Why does cannabis work mentally? Well, it's all these cannabinoid receptors on our brains. Fun fact, it is believed that there are more cannabinoid receptors in your body's brain than any other receptor type. Interesting, right? So, your CB1 receptors, again, your brain, your central nervous system, they can be found small parts on other tissues, including your heart, your lungs, and your uterus. Then we have our CB2 receptors, and these CB2 receptors are found mostly in the peripheral nervous system, tissues of our bodies, and mostly the immune system and immune cells. Interesting, right? So we know cannabis is going to have a direct effect on our immunity. Cool, right? Okay. So now each receptor does something different, right? So we're going to start putting the pieces together. So your CB1 receptors, these again, and we're all coming back to homeostasis and maintaining that balance, right? And so our CB1 receptors are targeting our appetite, our immunity, our pain perception, our short-term memory, and our thinking. Whereas our CB2 receptors, they target our adipose tissue, our bone and our skeletal system, cardiovascular system, the central nervous system, immune system, kidneys, liver, eyes, gut, and pancreas. That's a lot, right? We have receptors on all of these different things, and it helps us to understand, like, we have receptors in our eyes, and cannabis can help with glaucoma, starting to make sense, right? So we have all of these receptors which help to understand why cannabis is so effective for so many different things. So again, I wish we knew more about the endocannabinoid system, but I am excited about the future and what we're going to learn, because look at all of these things. Like, these are all things that cannabis can directly influence. And once we learn more about how we can have control over that, we then have better control over our health. So, receptors, those are our little mailboxes and they're waiting for a message, right? Now, when we come in, we have messages. There's two different kinds of messengers here. So we have endo from within and we have exo from without. And so this next slide blew my mind. I want you to chat in the comments and I want you to tell me, have you ever heard of anandamide or 2-AG? Inside our bodies, these are cannabinoids that we make. Our bodies make these. So if you've ever heard of anandamide or 2-AG, give me a yes or a no. I want to know because I had never, and I was like, anandamide, we make cannabinoids. I had no clue. So endogenous, for short, it's made by your body. And our body makes two different endocannabinoids. We have anandamide and 2-AG. And so I've got a lot of yes and a lot of no. So let's talk about it. Endogenous cannabinoids, endocannabinoids for short, they are made by your body, which it really blew my mind because not only did I not know we had an endocannabinoid system, but I didn't know that we were making cannabinoids. And once I understood that, I understood, well, hey, if my body isn't making maybe anandamide or 2-AG the way it's supposed to be, then maybe things aren't working correctly. And maybe that explains why when I do use cannabis, I do feel better. Perhaps is making up for a deficiency. That's the way my mind works. Anyway, so learning about anandamide, you guys want to know what anandamide, like, what is the, it has a nickname. Why can I think of nickname? Anyway, anandamide, the nickname for anandamide is called the bliss molecule. Hello, like why do we know about serotonin and dopamine and certain things like that, but we have never heard of the bliss molecule inside our bodies? Our bodies have a bliss molecule. Why is no one telling us about this? Why is no one ever helping us activate it or bring more of it to our lives? And that really helped me understand, well, I do feel quite blissful when I use cannabis. So makes total sense. Maybe I don't have enough anandamide. Maybe I'm making up for something. So I don't know if you guys had any clue about this, but yes, your bodies make these. And so I talked a lot about anandamide because it's the bliss molecule, because obviously that's like a trendy name. But we also have 2-AG as well. And 2-AG is another endocannabinoid, and it's believed that 2-AG is produced in response to changes sensed in the body, and that the role of this molecule is to talk inside the cells and tell them what to do to maintain homeostasis. So cool, right? Like that is just so interesting. The bliss molecule and 2-AG having such these profound influences on all sorts of things that go on in the body. So those are our messengers. We have our receptors open and we have our messengers from within our body, anandamide and 2-AG. And then we come in and we're like, oh my gosh, let me bring some more messages to the party. I'm going to give you some THC. I'm going to give you some CBD. These are the phytocannabinoids. And so the word exogenous means that they're not made by your body. It just exo means from without, external. So exogenous cannabinoids, they're not made by your body. They're found in plants, phytocannabinoids, obviously in the cannabis plant and some other plants out there. And so what happens is we choose to consume these exogenous cannabinoids, and they are then becoming the messages that go inside our receptors, right? And so now we're starting to understand when we use cannabis, it's having a direct effect on our body. And then when we understand how we change how we use things, it makes so much more sense. Okay. So we know obviously about THC and CBD, but when it comes to our exogenous phytocannabinoids, which is just a really fancy way of saying the cannabinoids that we get from the plant, I really need you guys to understand that there have been over 110 cannabinoids already identified. So we talk about THC and CBD all day long, but we're not ever thinking about the 110 cannabinoids else that are out there that could be impacting our experience. Now, what I will say is when a strain is growing in the ground, there's no guarantee that it's going to contain all 110. That's what makes a strain is that it's going to have different cannabinoids, different cannabinoid ratios, and different terpenes. And this is how you can get to start to choose how you use cannabis and how it's going to impact your body. So, for example, we all know about THCA, right? Tetrahydrocannabinolic acid. That is the compound growing in the raw cannabis plant. I'm looking at my plants outside the window here growing, full of THCA, right? It's not going to get us intoxicated. My kids can be around it. The THCA, I'm not worried about it. However, THCA itself has its own health benefits, its own researched health benefits. Now, when I'm ready, if I choose to smoke or decarboxylate that material, we know it's going to turn into THC, right? Through the process of decarboxylation. Just the process of decarbing, the THCA and the THC are both going to impact my endocannabinoid system completely differently. And you probably know that too. If you've used THCA, you know it's not intoxicating, whereas THC is. Now, for us, it's really easy to measure the level of intoxication because that's something we can feel, but we can't necessarily feel how a certain cannabinoid we're using is making our cells talk to each other differently, right? And so this is where we have to get really good at knowing our bodies, experimenting, being patient, understanding that there are a lot of different things that are impacting our experience here. Now, another example, I could have a plant growing out there right now that is chock full of CBDA and meant to be a CBD plant and has very little THC. And that's going to, again, impact your body completely differently. Because when we talk about receptors, every cannabinoid talks to every receptor differently. And so that's why when you use CBD, it's reacting on a different receptor. It's doing something different than what THC does. And that explains why we feel differently with different cannabinoids. But to take it further, it should help you understand why if I try CBD, it's going to feel different than if you try CBD. Okay, so I hope you take that. And I hope you understand that THC and CBD are just two, right? We have THCA, we have THC, CBDA, CBD. If you've gone down the rabbit hole of CBN, we use CBN for sleep. CBGA is the precursor for CBG. So if you're growing a CBG plant, a lot of people are using CBG for focus, energy, and wellness. You would actually start with CBGA and then you could decarboxylate that into CBG. Or if you were some people prefer the benefits of CBGA specifically. Now, here's where you understand you could start experimenting with a lot of different things to see how they make you feel. To go even further, I mean, cannabiochromine, CBC. We have tetrahydrocannabinol, THCV, which a lot of people use for like weight loss and things like that. So I don't want to get too extra about this, but I do want you to know there are over 110 different cannabinoids, and every single one that you use is going to make you feel different. And the even harder part is if you don't know what's in your material, it will be hard to know how it's going to make you feel, right? You could have a CBD flower or you could have a THC flower. It's all going to be so different. Okay. So, the role of cannabis in the endocannabinoid system, because we all have an endocannabinoid system and it works whether we're consuming cannabis or not, right? Think about it. Everybody in the world has an endocannabinoid system. Even the people who hate cannabis more than life itself, they don't even know they have an endocannabinoid system and their bodies are making cannabinoids all day long. But you are here and you're smart and you know that, and you know that you have a choice and an ability to impact your endocannabinoid system with the choice to use cannabis. So, when we consume our exogenous cannabinoids, they're going to interact with the endocannabinoid system. THC, which is the most common that we use, commonly causes euphoria or a high because of the way it activates specifically the CB1 receptor in the brain. Now, on the other hand, CBD can interact with more than one receptor type. It can interact with both the CB1 receptor and the CB2 receptor. And not to get even more complicated, but let's think about this for a second. If THC is working on the CB1 receptor and CBD also works on the CB1 receptor, then if you are combining and you're having THC and CBD together, both of those will act on the CB1 receptor at the same time, thus causing a different experience with a combination of THC and CBD than, say, if you had just THC alone. So I hope that all makes sense. Give me a water break. Can you all just tell me in the comments, yes, this is making sense. Yes, I'm with you. I want to know that we're all good before I move on. lot of questions about the THCV. If you want to go on my website, type in THCV. I have quite a few articles that talk about THCV, the potential appetite suppression, and how people are using it. So EmilyKyleNutrition.com, just type THCV in the search bar. Lots of different information to come there. And I did try and include like all of the scientific studies. They should be linked in there too, just to try and keep it as scientific as possible, because it's hard with THCV. Again, you don't know, you're not feeling high. So it takes a while to know if it's working. And it's hard with the munchies. So, okay. I think we're ready to go. Okay. Thank you guys for being like the best chat. You're all being so nice and kind. And I do see so many familiar names. So I just want to thank you all for being my people. I'm sorry if I'm overwhelming you, Rhonda. I really don't want to. I will say this is going to live on YouTube forever. So if you want to go back and watch this again too, like I know I talk fast and I get really excited about what I'm talking about. So everyone can always go back and watch this again. Okay. So next we're going to talk. Oh my gosh, it's 3:47. I'm so bad on time. I have like half a presentation left to do. So I'll talk not faster, but my goal now is that once you have a better understanding of your endocannabinoid system and how it works, now you can begin to understand how your use of phytocannabinoids can play a major role in your health. So, the type of cannabinoid you consume is going to produce different effects. We've already talked about this, and it's also going to have a range of physiologic activities in your body. Again, CBD is going to impact you differently than THC, CBG, and CBN. And so, whether it's CBD extracted from a hemp plant or THC from your own homegrown plants, what I really need you to be open-minded about is the potential, is the idea that you're going to have to experiment. You're going to have to experiment with different cannabinoids to understand how each one makes you feel. And I feel like people don't love that answer. And I get it, because we're so used to like our mainstream healthcare system where you go to your doctor and you're like, hey, I have XYZ. And they're like, here's your pill, take it and see what happens. But they give you a very specific dose and it's a very specific pill. You can't change it. Whereas with cannabis, it wouldn't be beneficial for me to give you a very specific, hey, take 20 milligrams of THC and see what happens. That wouldn't be good for you, because that's not tailored to your own unique endocannabinoid system. And while we like cookie cutter answers, 5 milligrams of THC will solve XYZ, it's not that, it doesn't work that way. And so to make the most of cannabis, what I really want you to get open-minded to is the fact that you're going to have to experiment. You're going to have to try different things on different days to see how you feel. You're going to, in even seasons of life ebb and flow, sometimes I need more THC and less THC depending on where I'm at in life and how things are going. So my ultimate goal with this presentation is that I'm empowering you to be able to take care of your endocannabinoid system and choose which cannabinoids are right for you in which situation. Okay. Poll question number 2. This is what I want for everybody, and this is my vision of how would it feel to have your own cannabis medicine cabinet stocked at home? Or maybe you already have one, and if you do, tell me as well. Imagine, like, and this is what I do, like, I have a very specific, I know exactly what I'm reaching for if I'm looking to sleep. I know exactly what I'm reaching for if I am giving a big presentation and don't want to be intoxicated, but maybe need some CBD to calm down. I know exactly what I need to reach if I'm having kid issues, right? I don't give my kids THC, but I do, use CBD or CBN with them. So I just really want everyone to get to the point where they're like, feeling empowered of like, I can make my own cannabis medicine cabinet at home. I can make my own sleep medicine, and I can make my own anxiety medicine. And I understand the plant enough to know that I'm going to be able to make each one of these a very specific way to meet my own unique needs. And everyone says they're working on it. I'm super excited. Like, I feel like we need to get to a point where we have like pictures of our cannabis medicine cabinets. And that would be my biggest goal for you is, you experiment, you try, you make one thing, and then you get another thing, and then you learn what works best for you. That's my goal for you. Okay. Let's talk about our endocannabinoid tone, because this is what makes us all different. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. CBD and THC, they each affect each one of us differently. Then the cannabinoids that you use are going to have different functions within your body. And this is because, again, this is research based on Dr. Ethan Russo. He's one of the best cannabis researchers out there. And he believes that every endocannabinoid system has its own tone or baseline activity, and that it's based on your physiology. And I really need you to let this sink in and understand, because this explains why different cannabis products can produce different effects for different people. So I can sit here and say, hey, CBN helps with sleep. My husband, my kids take it every night. They swear by it. That does not mean that CBN is going to help you sleep, because their bodies and how they work are different. And so when I say, hey, CBN can help for sleep, what I want you to do is say, hey, maybe I should try it, experiment with it in different ways, but in no way am I saying CBN is going to make everybody fall asleep every time. Right? I really need people to understand that our unique endocannabinoid systems are very, very different. And that explains why, even versus you versus your husband. So my sweet spot for THC edibles is 10 to 15 milligrams. My husband is 1 milligram to 0. We are so completely different in our bodies. And understanding that is very, very important, because he doesn't like THC, right? So this is why, and I really want the reason I keep saying this is because I want you to know that it's just you versus you, finding out how cannabis is going to work the best for you. You can get ideas from other people, you can get inspiration, but at the end of the day, it comes down to your experimentation. And I'm a really big proponent of cannabis journaling, and journaling, hey, if you're trying to do something specific, if you're just trying to relax after work, go smoke and relax after work. But if you're trying to do something specific, I do recommend journaling and saying, hey, Monday at 5 p.m., I took 20 milligrams of CBG and I felt amazing after. Something like that, where you can track over time what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then to see, are you getting results, right? And so at the end of what I want you to take away from this is that, yeah, we all have endocannabinoid systems, but it's just as unique as your immune system, and you need to figure out what works for you. So I'm just repeating myself. The endocannabinoid system, it has its unique tone. It's why cannabis affects everyone differently, and why cannabis requires a personalized approach. So even for example, someone says, I've taken 500 milligrams of CBD and not slept, and then another day 25 can put me out. That's your endocannabinoid system. And yes, your endocannabinoid system is doing different things all throughout the day too, right? And so much of cannabis is impacted by our different bodily functions. So if you consume THC on a full versus an empty stomach, you have two totally different results. So always keep in the back of your mind that there are a lot of different things at play that are going to be impacting your experience, that are not even necessarily cannabis related. And I think that's actually my next slide. Yes, additional factors that influence the endocannabinoid system. So you have this understanding that you have this system, and now you have this understanding that this system is unique to you. But now, what I want you to know is your endocannabinoid system is going to absolutely be affected by your physiology, your height, and your weight. But it's going to be impacted by all of and that's where this holistic, mindset comes in, is your endocannabinoid system is absolutely going to be impacted by your diet. Any supplements that you take and other herbs that you take, a lot of other herbs, adaptogens work within the body to bring more homeostasis. So what other supplements you're taking makes a difference. Your stress levels impact your endocannabinoid system, and varying levels of stress and coping mechanisms, how you deal with stress. A lot of us turn to cannabis for stress. A lot of people turn to other things for stress. And so it really does impact your endocannabinoid system. Lifestyle, alcohol intake, exercise habits have a huge role on your endocannabinoid system. And then, of course, medications, pharmaceutical and over-the-counter medications. And I always like to throw into all of my presentations that I am not anti-Western medicine. If you are taking any type of prescription medications and it is working for you, please continue to do so. I don't want cannabis to replace anything like that. Now, one thing that I always come back to is something really important that I learned in my training is that it is always the most important thing, the best thing you can do for any person is to treat the patient, not the condition. So I have a lot of people who will come to me and say, "Hey, Emily, I have arthritis. What can you do? What should I do? Tell me what to take." "Hey, Emily, I have pain. What can I do? What should I take?" "Hey, Emily, I can't sleep. What should I do? What should I take?" And it'd be great if I could be like, "Okay, for your pain, take 20 milligrams of THC 3 times a day and report back." Or for sleep, take 20 milligrams of CBN. I could say that, but it wouldn't be fair. There is no baseline. There's no established baseline. There's no standard dosing because every single thing is unique to the patient, not the condition. Every person who experiences arthritis has a different root source of why that arthritis came about in the first place. They have different experiences with the pain. It's in different locations within their body. It would be irresponsible for me to say, "Hey, everybody with arthritis, do this one thing and this is going to help." It's not that way. You're treating the patient, not the condition. And so, what I really mean about this is like, I'm going to pick a name here. Cheryl, I need you creating a Cheryl routine, a Cheryl endocannabinoid routine, not, I need this for my arthritis, I need this for pain. No, it's what Cheryl needs. And so if I can take anything from you, it's not finding that magic dose of what's perfect for a specific condition. It's finding the magic dose that's right for you and your specific body, right? And so how exactly do you do that for yourself? And that's exactly what I want to teach you how to do. There's so many ways to do this. And there's a lot to consider, right? Because there are so many things that affect our endocannabinoid system. So there's so many things to think about, right? First up, the plant and the strain, right? It would be nice if all cannabis was the same, but every strain is so, so different, right? I have a Northern Lights growing out there and I have a Blue Dream growing out there. They're two different strains, and I know that they're going to produce two different effects. One's more indica dominant, one's more sativa dominant, and I have different plans for what I want to use each specific type for. And so if you're a home grower, you have a lot of choice in the plants and the strains that you choose, thinking about certain ailments that you want to take care of, right? And we haven't even talked about terpenes. Terpenes are what makes cannabis smell the way it does. And terpenes in and of themselves are so super interesting because they enhance the way we experience cannabis and the way we feel. So it's not just the cannabinoids, it's not just the CBD and THC, it's the terpenes in there, which is amazing. And then it's the application method. So I didn't even talk, I was going to talk about this. If you smoke, it affects you completely differently than if you eat edibles, right? Or if you put it on your skin, or if you do a sublingual tincture. Each one has a different onset time, each one has a different duration time. These all, how you use it impacts you. And let me give you one specific, very specific example of that is when I talked about those enzymes, those metabolic enzymes. So let's go to edibles. When we consume THC, we eat it. It goes through the digestive system. Now, it's not entering our blood system, right? It's not making us immediately high while it's in our digestive system. What happens is it's going all the way through. It's not making us high because it's not entering the bloodstream, hits the liver. Once it hits the liver, those metabolic enzymes that we have as part of our endocannabinoid system convert THC into 11-OH-THC, which is a very potent metabolite that makes us feel intoxicated. So when you are consuming edibles, it's not the THC that makes you feel high. It's your body's enzymes and their ability to convert that THC into 11-OH-THC that specifically dictates your outcome with edibles. So for so many people who are like, "Oh, I don't feel the effect of edibles," it could be because of a lack of enzymes in the body. It could be that there's just not enough, that they don't exist at all. And so that's where I want you to start to put the pieces together of like, "Oh my gosh, edibles affect everybody so, so differently." Yeah, because we all have completely different enzymes, our digestive systems, things like that. But that's where I want you to understand is like, the more you learn, the more control you're going to have over this. We talked about the application methods. And then, of course, the dose that you take is going to have a huge impact as well. And that's really, again, where I come back to the cannabis journal of start recording your doses. Say try 5 milligrams one day, try 10 milligrams another day, and write down your symptoms, your experience, your result. And that way you can start to build a knowledge base of yourself of how you feel when you take each thing. Then again, your unique physiology, we can't change that. All we can do is work with that. And again, medications can impact your endocannabinoid system, but I certainly don't want you stopping any prescriptions or anything that's already currently working for you. So, these are the things that I want you to be focusing on when it comes to taking care of your endocannabinoid system. I want you thinking a lot about your strain that you're using. Can you change strains? Can you pick a different strain? Can you pick CBD dominant flower? Can you pick a CBG dominant flower? Like, which one is better for you to experiment with? I want you to think about your application methods. Are you only smoking? Have you tried anything else? Have you tried edibles? Have you tried a sublingual tincture? Have you tried, say you're looking, for example, for help with sleep? My recommendation would be to smoke or vape before bed, but also take an edible that's going to kick in a couple hours that's going to help you stay asleep. So the smoking helps you fall asleep, and then the edible helps you stay asleep. That's where you're layering these different application methods into impacting how you feel it. Again, your dose, your physiology, these are all the things that you have complete control of when it comes to maintaining your endocannabinoid system. So, I want to be super respectful of your time. That is a full hour. I definitely have more to talk about, and I'm going to talk about, but that was the bulk of the presentation, talking all about your endocannabinoid system. And what I'm going to do next is if you are someone who is ready to learn more, if you want to explore your endocannabinoid system in depth, I'm going to talk exactly about how you can do that. So, I know this is a lot of information presented at once. I can only cram so much information in a small amount of time. What I do have is the next step for you. And if this information was everything that you need, I'm so glad you were here, and I hope that is perfect for you. If you were someone who is saying, I really need to get this down. I need to figure this out for myself once and for all. This offer is for you. So what I have done is I have put together everything that I think you need to know in order to master your endocannabinoid system inside my program called the Cannabis Compass course, which is where I really think that you can have a transformation in your life in how you use cannabis, because it's exactly the information that I needed to transform my life. And that took me from that scared little Emily to who I am today and being able to confidently teach other people about cannabis. And so really this is me saying like, hey, I have created the safe space here where you can see a transformation in your life. And if the goal that you have, what is your goal? Is it to find wellness with cannabis? Is it to find pain relief? Is it to sleep? And if you have identified a really clear goal and that's aligned with your goal, then I want to help you achieve that goal and welcome you into my space. So there's a couple things though. When entering an online course, you have, some commitments, right? So it's time. I know I'm asking for your time, but if you are someone who is saying, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready to make this plant the dominant force of my health and wellness. I am ready to take control of my health, my healthcare conditions, and feel better. And if you are someone who's saying, I'm going to, a lot of us have a lot of passion for teaching this to other people as well. And so if you are someone who says, I need to spread this information to other people, I have to shout it from the rooftops, but I really need the more foundational knowledge. Well, and this is where the Cannabis Compass comes into play and puts you into control. And this is my way of saying, no more guessing, no more feeling alone. Let me hold your hand. Let me hold your hand for 5 weeks and let me take care of all your frustrations around cannabis confusion. Let's talk about this. When I was little, first over here, 12 years ago, I didn't know anything about cannabis. All I knew is that it made me feel better. I didn't know how to use it to help me sleep. I didn't know how to use it specifically for my anxiety. I didn't know how to use it in a way that was safe and appropriate with my kids. I didn't know how to use it in a way that I felt confident and comfortable teaching it to other people. And once I got that education, once I really mastered understanding my own endocannabinoid system, I became me, like Emily Kyle, certified holistic cannabis practitioner. And without that knowledge, I just don't think that I would have the life that I have today where I feel so good. I have so much energy. I don't know if I ever told you this, guys, the story. I used to absolutely hate exercise with a passion until I, realized that cannabis was actually my secret weapon in exercise. And now for the last 4 years, like exercise has been such a huge part of my life thanks to cannabis and understanding that I just needed to work with it different to find a way that helps me. Right. And so my whole goal is if you enter this program with me, you go from little scared Emily to amazingly happy, successful, certified holistic cannabis practitioner Emily. So my program, it is called the Cannabis Compass course. It is 5 weekly video lessons. Here's the thing. I understand that everybody is like super, super busy and you do not have time to invest in a lot. 5 weekly video lessons, they're going to be about an hour each and you have the entire week to complete them on your own time. I'm not going to say, hey, show up with me at exactly this time because we all have things to do. I have to get to cheer practice. I have to get out of here. You're just as busy as I am. This was designed specifically for people who are busy and need to be able to access the content on their own terms. I have also included optional quizzes for like interactive learning. So if you are someone who really, really loves to test your knowledge and like be like a student, like this is really Emily Kyle's Cannabis College. Like if you want to have the best time learning education, but in a fun way, like this is exactly what it's for. Now, I realize that community is such like a really, really important piece of this. So at the end of the 5-week program, we do a 1-hour group coaching call, and that's for everybody to get together. It's like this, but a little bit more intimate where I have more time to sit with you one-on-one. But that is where we all get to have that really special time. And that's the only time commitment. So you can do, your coursework on your own. We'll just do the 1-hour group coaching call. I'll give you the date and we can all come together. You get a printable workbook. You get a certificate of completion. And I think the most important, you get access to my Well with Cannabis community. I don't know if you're already in it or not yet, but that's like our super special safe place where you can ask any question online. It's completely private. Nobody can see it. So I'm always there to help you, answer you, and really the whole point is to guide you through along on your journey where there's 4,000 people already in the membership waiting to help you as you go along, so that my whole goal is that you feel completely supported and never alone on this educational path. Now, it is going to be an investment, obviously, of both your time and money. Enrollment is now open. Class is officially starting on Monday, September 22nd. Normally, this 6-week program I run for $195, but I always, you guys know if you've been on one of my live classes, I always offer something a little extra special for those who join me live. I do have a live bonus, and this one's a good one. As a thank you for attending the presentation, I am giving you the code ECS, and that's going to take $100 off your enrollment. So that means you can join my group program for only $95. So 6 weeks together, that's less than $20 a week. I'm going to give you all of the information that you need to know exactly about how to master your endocannabinoid system. Now, I am going to put this link in the chat in case you want to join me here in the class. Let's see if this works. Hopefully you can see. I did put a comment in there. It's also in the description though too. So if you want to join me in class, the link is right there. And if you click on the link in the description, it automatically takes the $100 off for you. You don't even have to put in a code. Again, I love to reward people who are like really committed. You're live, you're here. Class is starting on Monday. You're going to get the same infectious, fun energy from me, and we're going to master your endocannabinoid system together. Almost done. I got to get to cheer practice. So let's go here. This is what I want you to think if you're on the fence on whether or not this program is right for you. The first thing I want you to do is how much time could you save? Instead of going down the rabbit hole of all of these different things, I have put together everything in my exact step-by-step formula, so that way I know that you are not wasting your time learning about things that are not important, and that you are actually learning the things that are most important, that are going to get you the quickest results possible once you're done with that program. So I'm talking a 5-6 hour investment. What could you do with that time back? Because I know that you could be doom scrolling and going down the rabbit hole for way more than 6 hours, only to end up with more confusion than you even started out with. Now, my other point of this program, putting everything together this way, is so that you don't have to go through a million other programs and kind of piece everything together. How much money could you save if you were stop wasting your time, if you stop experimenting with things that you don't understand, if you really had a plan moving forward of how you were going to be able to take care of your body, right? And more importantly, what I see a lot of people here is like the passion that I had when I first started is that once I felt so good with cannabis, I had to share it with other people. I wanted everybody to know. And so, if you are someone in that space, whether you think that you might want to become a cannabis educator, a cannabis coach, a cannabis blogger, if you want to teach other people about this is the foundational course that you need. And on top of that, once you have that foundational knowledge, now I want you to think, who could you help with that knowledge? Could you go out and create a business like I have? Could you help your grandma feel better? Like it doesn't matter how big or small, it's who can you help with the knowledge that you have, especially a loved one. How can you improve the health of a loved one? You know, a lot of us have aging parents, aging grandparents. We know cannabis can provide such relief in so many cases. What if you had that knowledge of, I hate to use this story because I always do, but like when my father-in-law passed away 2 years ago, I mean, it was like cancer, super fast, like 2 months, but like thank God I knew how to make FICO and provide him with that pain relief that he needed in those final like days. I'm just so thankful that I had that information, and I want other people to have that too, of how can you use that to improve the health of a loved one. We always say, like, "I'll get around to it later." I don't know. I'm like a big, like, divine. If you're here with me, if I'm speaking to you, if this feels right to you, let's do this now. Let's get you this education now, because we all say, "I'll get around to it later," and we never know what the world brings later, right? We always get busier. We always have more things to do. If it's feeling right to you and it's speaking to you, now is the time to join me. I would absolutely love to have you in class. Ultimately, at the end of the day, whether you join me in class or you just get to enjoy the information shared here in this webinar, my goal is that we create cannabis confidence together. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. I just want to be able to guide you and share the education that I have so I can help you hold your hand. I can help you connect the dots, and I can help you understand what kind of role cannabis plays in your life, in your health, and your wellness. So yes, the Cannabis Compass course is open for enrollment. It starts next Monday. I would love to have you join me if you're interested. The link, I know you guys said it didn't show up in the chat, but it is in the description right here. And then I'll also send out an email replay of this, and I'll include that discount for you as well. But otherwise, we are here. I do feel like I probably should stay for a couple minutes and answer a couple questions. It's 4:14, so I'll stay until 4:20. Maybe we could all smoke together. That would be naughty, but why not? Let me stay here till 4:20. I'll answer some questions. Maybe we'll all take a little puff, and then I'll go to cheerleading practice. Probably shouldn't say that. Okay, if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in. I'm going to answer some questions we have now. Great question here from Diane. If you don't have enough enzymes so that your edibles are working for you, how do you get more enzymes? And this isn't like a super scientific answer, but when you go to like a health food store, they have digestive enzymes available for purchase. And I always ask people to try those and see if it helps make a difference. I feel like not enough people report back to me as to whether it actually does make a difference or not, but that's how you would supplement digestive enzymes. So, Diane, if you do end up using that, digestive enzymes and it works, please let me know. I'd be super interested. Also, Diane, you could Google or go on my website and type in like mango. There's a lot of people who believe like the terpenes, the myrcene in mango can help enhance your effective edibles as well. All right. For the class, when does it start? So it starts Monday, September 22nd. That's the first week of lessons. But like I said, it's a 1 hour lesson and you can access it anytime you want. So, like, you can watch it Monday at 10 a.m. as soon as it comes out, or you could watch it at Tuesday at 10 p.m. when you finally get the chance to be by yourself. That's why I built it to be totally up to you and comfortable because, again, we're all busy and we all have time to be able to do our own thing. Okay. Anyways, oh, Rhonda, you're so sweet. Thank you so much for registering for the class. I'm so excited to have you in class. Like, and Laura, you just registered too. You guys, I love having real students. We're gonna get just so much of a better chance to connect personally, and I just love being a teacher. To be honest, I wish that I could be like a college cannabis professor at a school, and no one's hired me yet. So, like, being able to do this and teach you is absolutely my honor and pleasure. So, thank you so much for joining me in class. Um, what can you sell me in Texas for pain? Jean, if you go to my website, shop.emilykylenutrition.com, every single product that I have on there right now, we are currently shipping to Texas. So depends on your dosage needs. We have different options. We have canna butter, we have gummies. Go ahead and check those out. And you can always send me a personal email too. I can help find the right product for you. Karen says, how can I decrease the munchies? If you go to my website, emilykylenutrition.com, and in the upper search bar, type in munchies, there's a whole article I have. But a lot of it includes watching how much THC you're consuming, whether or not you're consuming on a full or empty stomach, what kind of diet you normally have, and how your body normally responds to food. Like, a lot of people will be like, well, I get the munchies so bad, but like I only had coffee for breakfast and a protein bar for lunch and like nothing for dinner. Yeah, the munchies are going to be exacerbated for sure there. And then munchies, people are using THCV. What else are people doing? Changing up their strain too. For a lot of people, like, certain strains can trigger them more than others. So there's that. And then let's see. I did say I was going to smoke with you guys for 420. I'll do it super quick. I got this new dry herb vaporizer and I really like it. I'm gonna be actually like doing a little promo for them later on at Christmas time. This is called the Lobo vaporizer from Planet of the Vapes, and I've just been playing around with it. I love dry herb vaporizers because they taste great, they're really clean, and like I feel like I don't smell like smoke with my kids, and that's like another thing. So it's really cool. You only push the button 3 times. It's 4:18. I'm gonna be done sooner here, but unless you guys have more questions. Push the button 3 times. Oh, you put the flour. I already have flour in it. You just put a little bit in. I don't know if you can see that. Just a little bit in there. Just a little bit in there. And then you just push the button. You don't have to do anything. And it's going to heat up. So you can see it's getting hot. I have it set to like 415. You can change it to whatever you want it to be. But then we're going to do a little puff together, a little send off. But before that, I should just say thank you so much for joining me. It really is a joy of mine to be able to present and to be able to have people to present to. Like, I couldn't do it if you didn't show up. So thank you so much for being here. This is the first time I've ever done a live on YouTube, and I really like it. I just want to like reduce the amount of friction for people getting in. Like, sometimes Zoom can have like it's hard. So hopefully if you guys like this YouTube, please let me know if you like the YouTube. Otherwise, we're going to take a nice little puff here and all right. Thank you so much, you guys. I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you want to join me in the Cannabis Compass course, I can't wait to have you. And if not, I hope you found this super helpful, worth your time. Thanks for being here. Happy 420. Y'all have a wonderful day.